Boker Tov. Today's daf is Daf Beis and Mציעא. We learn a new mesechet, and we learn, of course, for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael Hanasun Batzar V'Shivya. Says the Mishnah. We'll start with the Mishnah again. Shnai Mochsim B'Talis. Two people holding on to a talis. Where do they get this talis? Well, let's say they picked it up in a place which we said is mostly goyim, so that they don't have to return it. They don't have to look for simonim, as we'll talk about in the next parak. Two people they're holding. Right now, we found two people holding on to a talis. Zelmer name is the The Gemara is going to talk about the lashon over here. Each one says, "I found it." This is I found it. That one says, "I found it." Zelmer kulishli, Zelmer kushi. Then this seems redundant because he says each one says, "It's all mine. It's all mine." Well, if you found it, isn't it obvious that it's yours? Yeah, the Gemara is going to explain what the strange lashon is. Zeyishba. So we make a shvur she'eno pachas michetzi. Each one swears that he doesn't have less than half. Now, we know already, without even seeing the Gemara, that this has got to be a shvur d'Rabbanan. Why? Because we've learned already that a shvur d'Oraisa is only you swear to avoid payment, right? You have a claim against me. I noted that I owe you half. You say I owe you $100. I say I owe you half. On the other half, the half that I owe, I agree. Okay. The other half I deny, and for that I make a shvur. That's a shvur d'Oraisa. There's no shvur d'Oraisa where you swear to collect. Those are always d'Rabbanans. So this is a shvur d'Rabbanan for sure because you're swearing to collect it. You're swearing to take it. So Zayish b'Shemo. So what's the shvur that he makes? A strange shvur. He doesn't swear that he has left. He swears that I don't have less than half. Zayish b'Shemo pachas michetzia. Zayish b'Shemo pachas michetzia. Again, because here we're going to see, and we're going to see this in the Gemara a lot. We don't want to make a shvur which clearly is going to involve a lie, that somebody's going to swear falsely. If each guy swore that I own the whole thing, which is what he claims, one of them's lying. Even if he's mistaken, he's not lying on purpose, but it's for sure going to be a lie here. They can't belong to two people unless they're partners. And if they're partners, what do we learn? That each owns the whole thing for half. In other words, partnership is not like I own this half and you own this half. We each own the whole thing, but that on a dissolution or on a payment, when you split it up, I'm going to take half. But each owns the whole thing. They're not claiming that. Each one claims that he owned the whole thing. He picked it up first. So each one swears he doesn't want to have and they split it.
Why is this different than any shvur where you make someone swear to make sure he's telling the truth?
Okay, so again, there's a shvur d'Oraisa, shvur d'Rabbanan. For example, shvur d'Oraisa is I only have half. Another shvur d'Oraisa is I have one aid. We have a dispute, right? We have a dispute. I say you owe me $200 and you say you don't owe me anything, right? You don't owe me anything. Normally, you don't have to pay. However, let's say Avram has, I have an aid, one aid. One aid can make you make a shvur d'Oraisa, but your shvur is that you don't owe me anything. The shvur d'Oraisa is only that you're denying it. I just can't make you make a shvur stam. I can't make you make a shvur stam. D'Oraisa, you can only make a shvur to deny something. Either your motive mixes to me, or there's one aid. That's usually your shvur d'Oraisa. Many shvurs d'Rabbanan. Midrabbanan, if I say you owe me $100 and you deny the whole thing, so we have to shvur hesas, which you just say because just to pacify everybody, you have to make a shvur, but there has to be a claim. I can't just say some swear to me. It's got to be a claim, a valid claim, some sort of a claim.
But so, here you have the other guy saying it's not yours.
Okay, so again, okay, that's the shvur. Because if each one make a shvur d'Rabbanan that I own the whole thing, one of them is for sure. There's for sure a lie taking place in court under shvur, and we don't want that. We don't want because if each one swears that he owns the whole thing, there's a lie. There's a lie taking place, even if it's b'shogeg. They didn't mean to lie. Each one thinks he really owns it. It's possible. It's possible. There are many possibilities here. There's possibility that each one is a fraud. They're lying. Each one knows, whatever. Maybe it belongs to a third person. It's also possible that each picked it up at the same time. One picked up one half. One picked up the other half. You have to pick it up, as we'll see. It's not enough to say I saw it first. That doesn't make you a claim. The Gemara is going to talk about this. Each one. So it's also possible, but it's not possible that each one owns it. That each one owns it. It's either one or the other. It's impossible. Or they might own it together. But it's not possible that they each own the whole thing. That can't happen. It's either one or the other.
But the shvur you're making them swear is that half is mine.
That at least half is mine.
same situation.
But it's possible, no, because it's possible that there's a truth there. It's possible they picked it up together. That's possible. But if they each swear that the whole thing is theirs, then one's for sure lying, even if he doesn't mean to lie. But there's a sure God's name is being taken in vain here because one is for sure lying. That's the concept here. Now he says, and they split it. They split it based on the shvur. This is important. They make this shvur drabanan, and after they make a shvur, they split it. That's the best you can do. Similarly, let's say one is moda that half of it belongs to you. I moda half of it belongs to you. Why? Because we picked it up together. So I know half is yours. I admit that. The other guy says, no, the whole thing is mine. I picked up the whole thing myself first. So Ha'omer Kul, so the one who says it's all mine, Yesh B'Shein Lo Pachas Mishloshachem. He swears he has less than 3/4. Why? Because half he admits is his. Half the other guy admits is his. There's no dispute. It's no contende on half. Half Shimon's motor to Reuben. Yeah, half is yours. Half is yours for sure. So they're only arguing about the other half. So in the other half, they're each basically saying they have a quarter of it. So the one who for sure has half because the other guy's motive to him. Let's say Ruvain says I own the whole thing, and Shimon says you own half. So on the half that Shimon's motive to, there's no dispute. So Reuben is effectively swearing that he has 3/4. While he swears he doesn't know less than a quarter because again the dispute's only on one half. So again, to make sure that we don't have a for sure lie over here, even though this seems unlikely, you have 3/4 and I have a quarter. It's possible, but if I swear that I have the whole thing and you swear you have the whole thing, there's a for sure lie taking place. And that's how they split it up, Taka, after the shvua. Again, the shvua drabanan, and that Reuben gets 3/4, Shimon gets a quarter. The same thing takes place here if the dispute's not about a talus that they picked up together, but rather if two people are riding on an animal. The chiddush here is that if you're leading an animal, obviously you can't pick up the animal, but if you're riding on the animal or you're leading, that's the same claim of ownership. Each guy says, I found it first, I made the king first. Same idea, each one swears that he doesn't know less than half, and they split it. If they're moda to one another, there's Adam, what's the chiddush in that? If they're moda to one another, what's the chiddush? So he says, the chiddush is that it's also possible that one picked it up. Two guys are walking along. Look at that animal, or look at that talus. And one guy says, I'll get it for both of us. It's possible that I picked it up with the intention that half is mine, half is yours. It's possible. Or maybe I changed my mind afterwards and I swore the whole thing's mine. In other words, even though it's unlikely to say that they picked it up together, it's, there's some Farshim say, like, you can't define a split second. We picked it up exactly together. Is that really possible? No, it's also possible that I picked it up. I said, I'll pick it up for both of us. I'll pick it up. You'll take half, I'll have half. I could have said that, and then I changed my mind, or the other guy lied. It's all these things are possibilities. Says the Gemara. What's this all lashon? That double lashon. Each guy says, I found it. And then each guy says, I found it. Then each guy says, it's all mine. What is that? What do you have to have all that extra lashon for? Listen, just say it in one phrase. So first thing, like sort of changes it and says, what the really Mishnah means is, he really says, each guy says, I found it and it's all mine. Each one says, I found it and it's all mine. So what do you have? Even if it's one phrase, it's not each guy said, I found it. Each guy said, I found it. Each guy says it's all mine. No, each guy says, I found it and it's all mine. But that's also redundant. What do you need all that for? Says the Gemara, so okay. So but listen, just say I found it. What do you have to say? It's all mine. I found it first. That's what he means. I found it. If I found it, it's all mine. No, if he says I found it, I saw it first. If he says I found it, so what if you found it? I saw it. That doesn't give you a kinyan. I see a lot of things. That doesn't mean I own it. I might think it let's see even though I didn't really pick it up yet, it didn't come into my hand. But maybe I'm cornered with just by seeing it. It's not a kula shali. So therefore he says kula shali, that it's all mine. The bariya lokana, to teach me that you don't acquire it just by looking at it, by seeing it first. You have to pick it up. So Gemara says, can you really think that mitzasiyah, finding it, means seeing it? Rav Hanoi had said back in Baba Kama, umatsasa, when it comes to finding a lost item, I'll call it whatever you find, umatsasa, you have to return it, right? Umatsasa. The asli other mashma, umatsasa means in the pasuk, it means that it came into your hand. The chiddush over there is that you only have to return items that are lost, but you're not allowed to steal from a guy. But if you find an item on the street, you don't have to return it to a guy, even if you picked it up. That's what it says. Umatsasa, even if you picked it up, it's only for a Jewish person that you have to return it, not to a Goyish person. So Matzasa means you picked it up. When the pasuk says Matzasa, and it means it came into your hand, you picked it up. The other mashma, that's the pasuk. The pasuk says Matzasa means that you picked it up. But the Tana, our Tana, when it says Ani Matzasi, is talking about the way people normally talk. Once a person sees it, I found it. What do you say? What do you mean you took it? I found it first. Even though it didn't come into my hand, I didn't pick it up. I just picked it up just by seeing it. I think it's mine. That's what I might say. Tana Kula Shli says, no. If we just say Ani Matzasi, each guy says, I found it first. No. Kula Shli, the Beriya Ba'alma Lo Kani. The extra lesson teaches me that you're not kona just by seeing it, you have to actually pick it up. So then just the other way around. If matzasiya just means what? I found it. So forget matzasiya. Let each person say, it's mine. It's mine because I picked it up first. So listen to the cool shli below boy matzasiya. Just say, two guys are holding this talus. Each guy says it's mine. What if this is about finding it? Doesn't mean anything. If we just say cool shli ba'alma diktani matzasiya. Normally, when you just says I found it, B'riya ba'almakani might think that you kona normally just by mitzvah. Here he says, it's mine, but maybe I wouldn't know what happens if you found it. Maybe you found it also, your kona, tanani mitzvah. It says, ani mitzvah, b'hadatana kulishli, the double lashon of I found it and it's mine, the Mishnah Yisayah from the extra word, Tashmin and the B'riya Lokani tells you that Riyah by itself doesn't find it. Okay, so that's all like you're trying to get away with. Why to say ani mitzvah to tell me kulishli? If it only say kulishli, I may think other places finding it is also good enough. He says, no. Double lashon tells you, I found it and I picked it up first. That's what he's telling you. Says, like going back to the very beginning, that you said it's one phrase, I found it and it's mine. But the lashon of the Mishnah says, it's repeated. You're changing the words of the Mishnah. Rav Papa, so Rav Papa answers this. You're right. Forget that whole business. Rav Papa v'teim Rav Shim Barashi. Either Rav Papa said Rav Shim Barashi, but Amri la Kadi. Kadi, was always a machlokas. Is Kadi the name of a person? Kadi was a Tana, or it's Kadi. Kadi means anonymous, nothing. There's nothing there. Kadi, like you said it for nothing. I'm not sure. Could have been anonymous, or could have been Eves Hashem. Reisha v'Metziah v'Seif Mekachom Emker. They're two different cases. Ani Mitzasiya is I found it. I found it and it's mine. I found it mean I picked it up. We understand that I like the pasuk says, Matzasa means I picked it up. I found it and I picked it up. When he says Kula Shali, he's not talking about I found it. Kula Shali means I bought it. They each saying I bought it. The Seifa, Mekachom Emker, there's two different cases. Two guys are holding a talus. One case is each guy says, I found it. I found it and picked it up. I found it and picked it up. That's one case. Then there's another case. I bought it. The other guy says, I bought it. Okay, why don't you just find out who has the sales receipt? Well, if somebody has proof, they got proof, right? Right? But okay, why don't we ask the guy who sold it to him? We'll see. The same, remember, it's tricky. You have to need both cases. So why do you have, what's the difference? They're both claiming that it's all theirs. What's the difference if they say, I found it, what's the same, they bought it? You need both cases. In the case of a Mצי'ah, that's why the Rabbanan, again, you see this is a Tekana Rabbanan, the Shvua. The Rabbanan made him make a Shvua. Why? Because a person permits himself, listen, he really picked it up first. But what? So I went and I took it from him. I picked it up afterwards. I'll say it's all mine. What loss am I causing him? Did he have a loss over here? He didn't pay for it, right? Each guy figures, okay, you make a permit, he makes a permits himself. So he didn't lose anything. I'll go grab it. I'll split it with him. I know he picked it up first, but I'll go split it with him because he didn't lose anything anyway. Why should I get half? So there you say, the Rabbi said, make a shvua. People don't want to make a shvua with God's name. I swear that I own at least half when you know that you didn't pick it up first. This way, maybe he'll be moda, right? You don't want to make a shvua. The rabbis make a shvua to try to get him to be honest. But But by a sale, but by a sale where you can't say, well, he didn't lose anything. He paid for it. And what do you mean he paid for it? Who paid for it? So we'll see. The Gemara is going to explain in a minute. They both paid for it. They both paid for it. Wasn't the owner a crook? No. He took money from both. One guy paid him, and the other guy forced the money on him. It's also possible that he's confused. People are doing business on tables and stuff like that, and he took money. Both wanted to buy it. He took money from both, and he doesn't remember who he took it from now, and the item's not in his rishus anyway. So mekach memker. So you say, okay. So what do you say in a case like that when you split it? What do you say? You split it. So each guy gives back. Each guy paid for it. So each guy gets back half his money. He gets half the item and half his money back. So he doesn't really have a loss. Yes, but it is a loss to him because he wanted to buy this thing. A guy found it on the street. He found it on the street. He didn't miss anything. I'm not causing him any loss. But this is an item that we both wanted. He was running after Mekha. You can't say, well, he didn't have any loss anyway. He just found it on the street. So therefore, Amalo, I might think you don't make a shvua there, Kamashma, and there you also make a shvua. In other words, maybe the Rabbanon made a shvua, person's mora heter. This guy didn't lose anything. He found it on the street. Let me keep half too. But by Mekha Memker, maybe you wouldn't go that far. Kamashma, let me say that by Mekha Memker also. And the other way, so just say Mekha. Why don't you just say the other case? Just say Mekha Memker, and it's obvious that in the case of Bitan Mekha Memker, Hani Mele, Huda Have Amena, I would think. In the case of Mekha Memker, Rabbana make a shvur. We should do more because the person there more had to Amr. Another, we both paid for it. Anna, but we both paid for it, right? There's a fight. We both paid for it. One paid for it willingly, that the owner accepted it, and one that was of force. Now, what's the difference? We both paid for it. Now that I want it, I'll take it. Ashkelei Anna. Let him go buy another one. He's going to get his money back anyway, right? We both wanted it, right? We both paid for it. The question is who was it a forced and who did it willingly? Okay, so you know what? I wanted to. Let him go buy somewhere else. So there we say, you know what? Make a shvur that he should admit it. But by Messiah, maybe you wouldn't say that. Why? Because by Messiah, maybe you wouldn't say that. He can't go find another one. Right? It's one thing when he bought it, so we each paid for it. So what? So I take it. You'll get your money back. Go find it in another store. But by a lost item, who says he's going to find a talus? That's unlikely. Maybe there you wouldn't go that far. Therefore, tell me in both cases the rabbis made him make a shvua so that the crook should admit it. If he's a crook, it's also possible that he's not a crook. It's possible that they both picked it up simultaneously or one picked it up for the other. Okay. Says the Gemara, what's this case? Yeah. The guy who won't make a shvua. No, it's also possible. No, we're trying to get them to make a shvua, right. So we admit it. If the guy one guy made me babat and said I'm not going to make a shvua, right? We don't want to swear because of the ownership of shvua. And even though he's legitimately the owner, he might just give up on it. That's also possible. Or it might cause. The point is, we make him make a shvua that if the guy is really a liar and he doesn't want to swear, so that'll force him. Making a shvua forces people to be honest, supposedly, if he's not really a terrible person. So I would like my so the Gemara says, what's this case of Mekha? I've already told you that the case of Mekha, so they both paid Mekha Memker. If this is a case of Mekha Memker, just say who paid for it. If it's just Mekha Memker, they both picked it up fine. But if they're both coming to court holding it and they both say, I bought it, well, who has the receipt? Well, we ask the owner. Who did he take money from? So let's read it. They're not going to buy it. Pardon?
Probably took it from both.
That's what he did. That's what I said. He took money from both. Now, is he a crook? No. One guy paid for it and they agreed to the deal. The other guy's forced the money on him. He forced him. He says, take the money, I'm buying it. We don't know who was Balkoch or not. Rashi explains that if the item is still in the hands of the owner, the balabayis, the shopkeeper, he's believed, but it's not in his hands anymore. They're holding it, right? So even if he says, I know who I took from, we don't believe him because he doesn't remember. We don't know. We don't know. Okay, so that's the case over there. So now we're saying that our Mishnah Shnai Mochsin, one case is we both found it. They're both saying they're both holding the item. But they're both coming to court holding the item together, and each one claims that I found it, or each one claims I bought it. Okay. Now we're going to go into other cases. So our mission is not like Benanas. The Benanas Homer case in El. Here's another case. We're going to come to this case later. I'll tell you the case outside now. What happened here? A man says, listen, you always do business with them. I call it here. We understand here. Everybody buys their shom. They write it down, or they used to at least. They keep a cheshbon, right? So a man tells the shopkeeper, "Listen, I don't have any cash now. You pay my worker cash. He owes you. Pay him his salary $500. Pay him the money, and I'll pay you. I'll pay you. Okay, that's what a guy does, right? It's called Chevi Am Picasso. I'll pay you. Lay out the money for my worker, and I'll pay you back. Okay." A week later, they come to settle up. The worker says, "I never got any money," and the shopkeeper says, "I paid him. I paid him." Now here, one of them is for sure lying, right? The worker says, "I didn't get paid." The Makolet guy says, "I paid him." What do you do? What do you do in a case like that? So Benana says, listen, there's Benana, that's his name, there's for sure going to be a lie over here. It's possible one of them's telling the truth. It's possible one of them's telling the truth, that he didn't get paid. And the guy says, "I paid him." But if they both swear, if the worker swears that what? That he didn't get paid, and the shopkeeper says, "I paid him," and they both swear to that effect, one of them's first lying. So therefore, Benana says, therefore, what do? They each collect from the boss. They each collect from the boss. He's got to pay them both. He trusted him. He says, "You pay him and I'll pay you back." Now he says, the Makola guy says, the shopkeeper says, "I paid him." The worker says, "I didn't get paid." Right? So he's got to pay them both. He's got to pay them both. So he make a shvur? No. And so don't make a shvur, because for here there's going to be a lie over here. We don't want God's name taken in vain. And here God's name will definitely be taken in vain because the woman's liar. So Harmish doesn't come out like bananas, because Harmish says you make a shvur. So Gemara says, no, I feel the commission come like bananas. There's for sure a lie, because one of them's lying. Either he got paid or he didn't get paid. It's possible. It's possible, unlikely, but it's possible they both picked it up at the same time. Or as I said, that one picked it up originally for the other one, for both of them together. So there's not a for sure lie over here. So that's why we say, I don't own less than half, right? Because if I swear I own the whole thing, the other guy swears I own the thing, there's for sure a lie. Okay, let me see slow consumas. Maybe in Mishnah go like Chubbas. The consumas armor, mamana muta besafik chokin. He says that the money that's if there's a suffix, a famous sheet of sumkas, right? What's the case over there? The famous case in Baba Kama Daf Kuf, right? What's the case there? I think it's Daf Kuf. What's the case there? There's a ox that gored a pregnant cow. We know that the cow was pregnant, and the ox gored the cow. Now the baby of the Vlad is dead. Did the ox gore the mother and kill the baby, and therefore the owner of the ox has to pay for the baby, for the Vlad? Or did it die before? We don't know. There are no witnesses. We don't know. So what do you do in a case like that? Does the owner of the ox pay for the dead baby also, $50, whatever the Vlad is worth, or not? So Sumka says over there, since it's a suffix, you split it. Split it down the middle without a shvur. So the Chor Mishnah doesn't come out like Sumkas. Because Sumkas are a suffix, cholkin below shvur. You don't make a shvur, you split it. Now in that case of Sumkas, think about it. You split it, one of them is for sure getting cheated. We don't know, right? We don't know. We don't know if the baby was killed before, right? If the baby was killed by the ox or the baby died before. There's no way to know. So he says, okay, split it down the middle, right? So here he says, for sure. Our Mishnah says you make a shvur to split it. So Gemara, if Elamai Rabbanan goes like Rabbanan, what are the Rabbanan say over there? That's our general thing. We didn't say the first Rashi. If you look back at on Daf Bezim at Aleph, first Rashi says Dafka Ochsen Yishnaim. They're both Ochsen Yishnaim Muchsigim. They're both holding it. They're both holding the towels coming into court, right? But if one of them's holding Shiva, you'll be out Echaman. The other guy's Motzim Mechavel Varaya. That's our general rule. You want money from me? Go prove it. So what do you mean? Belamai Rabbanan? Rabbanan say Motzim Mechavel Varaya, meaning also you don't make a shvur. You don't make a shvur. So why would our Mishnah go like the Rabbanan? The Rabbanan say you got to prove it. It was Haimai. No. Look at it. Yeah, but Bishlam Rabbanan. If you say our Mishnah goes like a Rabbanan, I understand. Hasandol Tafsai Tavayu. Over there in the case of the shore and the para and the baby, you could say nobody's holding on to thing. I'm Rabbanan Motzim Mechavel Varaya. Listen, you want money from me, meaning who wants money from whom? The owner of the cow wants money from the owner of the ox for goring and killing the baby, right? You want money from me, prove it. I'm Rabbanim Raya. But over here, they're both holding on to it. Both of them are holding on to the Tafsir. So then you could say, Palgala B'Shvua, split of B'Shvua. In other words, Rabbanim makes sense. Over there, the Rabbanim say, listen, we don't know what happened over here. Nobody's holding on to anything. You want money from me for killing the baby? Do you have any proof? You have Adam? You have anything at all? No. You don't have a video camera, whatever. They can fake that too today, What do you have? You have the security cameras? You have no proof. So, but over here, they're both holding on to it. So Rabbanan says, split with Shvua. Eliamrit Sumchas. But if you go like Sumchas, Hashta, Ma Hosam, the low Tafsi Tavayu. Over there, where neither one is holding on to the money, or let's say, or whatever it is. There's nobody holding on to anything. You say Cholkim below Shvua. Here, where they're both holding on to a Koshka, you could say they should split it with a Shvua. You should split it without a Shvua. If over there where nobody's holding on to anything, you still say you split it without a Shvua. In the case of the baby and the ox goring, over here where they're both holding on to something, certainly you should get it without a Shvua. I feel Sumchas. Kiyam or Sumchas. When did Sumchas say that you split it? Shema v'shema. When neither one is sure. Can the owner of the ox know for sure that his animal gored after the baby died? Or the owner of the park saying, no, the ox gored and killed the baby? Nobody saw it. They're both not sure. No, not sure you split it without a Shvua. Avo bari, where they're both sure, that's a good claim. To take out money from the other one, you swear with a Shvua. He never said Mamna Musafik Cholkin below Shvua. That's only when they're not sure, but when they're sure, you don't say Cholkin below Shvua. Says Rabba over there, someone says, even when they're both sure, you still say split without a Shvua. Over here also, you should split without a Shvua. So our Mishnah does not go like Sumkas. Sumkas says his item when there's a definite loss of money, meaning there's a definite loss of money over here. Somebody lost over here. Either the owner of the parah lost or the owner of the ox lost, right? If the owner of the parah lost, somebody lost the value of the baby over here, right? Either if you're going to make the owner of the ox pay for something that he didn't do, it's a loss to him. And if the owner of the parah is going to lose out from the damages, he's going to lose out. Right, where does I feel them some scammers? Some say where there's no for sure loss of money, like over here. Nobody for sure is losing anything. It's possible they both picked it up together. Low. In other words, over there, one of them is for sure. There's definitely a loss over there to somebody. If you're going to make the owner of the ox pay illegally or not properly, it's going to be a loss to him, right? And by saying you split it, that's a problem, right? Where did someone say, well, there's a definite loss of money? So you say, okay, only a little bit of loss to each one, right? When there's no loss of money, maybe he didn't say it. So Marsha's just saying, logic goes the other way around. When you say over there, split it, the owner of the ox pays half the value of the baby, somebody is losing here, right? If the owner of the ox killed the whole baby, so the owner of the parah is losing half. And if the owner of the ox did not do the damage, then he's losing half. Somebody's for sure losing. There's a definite loss of money. Last Rashi on the page. Somebody's losing half of the value of the baby over here, shalokadin, improperly, right? Because either the baby was killed by the ox or wasn't killed by the ox. When you make the owner of the ox pay for half the baby, somebody's losing. Either the owner of the parah is losing, if he legitimately should have paid if he legitimately should have received money for the baby, or the owner of the ox is losing half when it's illegitimate for him to pay. Somebody's for sure losing. So Marach over there, where there's definitely a loss to everybody, still and now yet it's likely, and in fact, it's for sure that it either goes to either the owner of the ox should pay or the owner of the parah should pay for the baby. Meaning you shouldn't get paid. For sure, still Simcha says, you split it. When you say over there, you split it, somebody's losing out. That's not fair, right? Because either the ox killed the baby or didn't kill the baby. When you say he should pay for half the baby, somebody's getting cheated over there. Still, you say you split it. It's not for sure lost. Maybe it really does belong to both of them. Well, Koshkein, certainly you should split it without a shvua. So how can you say over here our mission go like Sumchas? Bananas, we said, yeah, it's possible to say bananas because over there there's for sure a lie. If one guy says I got paid, one says I didn't get paid, one is for sure a lie, so you say you split it. But where Sumchas says, split it down the middle. Splitting down the middle, for sure somebody's losing. Over here, you don't say for sure somebody's losing. So if when for sure somebody's losing, you still say split it without a shvua. So when it's not sure that somebody's losing, it's possible they both own the talis together or the animal together. Certainly, you should split out a shvua. It can even go like some of the mission. Why shvuzu rabbanim? Ashvuzu rabbanim ki Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yochanan shvuzu tekas chum. It's a decree, a remedy of the rabbis. People shouldn't go grab somebody else's talis, somebody else's animal. Omer shaliu. Should people set the corner? People say, "Oh, listen, why did he got that talis for nothing? I'll go grab it." You know what? You still got to make a shvua because it's very easy to have that kind of a claim. So you're right. In the case of an ox goring a parah, there he says, "Mama chalkim below shvua." But over here, the rabbis made a takana. Listen, it's so easy to say, "I found it, I bought it." You shouldn't do it. We have a special takana. Like we said, it's a xera drapana. Okay. So our Mishnah can give you like bananas. Mishnah go like with simple. Lay masis lo is another case. Famous case. What's the case? There's a nifgad, a depositor. We'll call him the banker. Okay. One guy gives the banker $100. Reuben gives him $100. One guy, let's say Reuben gives $100. That guy gives him $200 to hold for them. They come back a month later, right? And each guy claims, I'm the one who gave you the $200, right? Each one gave 100, one gave 200. Now, when it comes to collect, so the guy's holding $300, right? The banker's holding $300. When it comes to collect, they come to collect it. Each one says, I'm the one who gave you 200, right? What do you say in a case like that? So the Rabbanan say, okay, what should the banker do? He gives each one 100, because 100 for sure they got. And the other 100, what are you going to do? Leave it. You can't give it to either one. There's no proof, no receipts, nothing. Says Rav Yossi, don't pay anything out. Leave the whole thing until Eliyahu comes. You don't even give each one $100. Why? Because this way, maybe the fraud will admit the problem. You see, when the fraud, the one who's lying and says, I gave it 200 and he really only gave 100, what do I have to lose? What do I have to lose? I'll say I got the 200. If I'm each going to get the 100 back anyway, well, we're going to get 100 back. Everybody's going to get their 100. So what's the problem, right? I'm going to get my 100 anyway. So why should I admit it? But if nobody gets anything, maybe the fraud will admit it. That's the machlokas over there. So the Gemara says now, that's what Rabbi Yossi says. Lei masis lo Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi. Dik Rabbi Yossi, Omer imkein ma'afsar ramai. What is if the banker gives each one his $100 back? What is the fraud lost? He hasn't lost anything. Ella hakoyim munachat shevil.
Poor honest guy.
Yeah, he gets not right. Okay, right, but that's what the Rabbanan say. You're right. That's the Rabbanan sheet. To pay each guy $100 because each guy definitely gave 100. Rabbi Yossi says, now this way, maybe he won't admit it right away, but eventually maybe he'll admit it because he wants his 100 too. This way you force him to admit it. That's Rabbi Yossi.
100, even though he's 200, because at least he gets something.
Right, maybe. So if he gets that, if he admits it, he admits it. He says, I only gave you 100, I don't give 100. Ella, if he's motive to the liar, okay. So, but this way, it may be Rabbi Yossi Shitas, maybe a little bit. So maybe our missions look like Rabbi Yossi, because Rabbi Yossi came after the Ramai. Ella, call you leave the whole thing. So here also, why don't you say leave the whole thing? And our mission, why do you say you split it with the shvua? Just say, listen, no, leave the whole thing. If there's a fight about it, leave it so the Ramai will admit. So the Gemara says, "El my Rabbanan." What do you mean? And therefore, what? Our Mishnah goes like the Rabbanan who say you give each guy back his $100, the first $100. El my Rabbanan. Give the Rabbanan Shayim and Achshavio. Rabbanan also say the two, each guy gets 100 back, and the extra 100 leave that until Eliyahu comes. And we don't know. So Hanami Kashar dummy. This is also like the whole thing is like this fakey. In other words, what's Mesupik in the case of the banker? The third $100 is a suffix who it belongs to. Here, the whole talis is a suffix who it belongs to, or the whole chamor, whatever the issue was about, is a fake. And also it should be leave the whole thing on She'ev Eliyahu. In other words, both of them say over there, even the Rabbanan L'chorah say that you should leave the whole thing. So here too, our mission wouldn't go like Rabbi Yossi or like the Rabbanan. Says, no, hi, my. Look at it carefully. Yeah, I'm a bishlam Rabbanan. If you say, go say Rabbanan, hasam the body, hi, mana, the chad minayu. Over there, the extra $100, think about it. The extra $100, 100 each gave. And one guy gave 200. He gave an extra. And the extra 100 definitely belongs to one. It definitely belongs to one. You can't split that. This extra 100 definitely belongs to one of them. You can't say split it. But over here, it's possible that they both picked it up together, or one picked it up for both of them. That makes sense. So according to Rabbanan, it makes sense because over there, the reason why the Rabbanan say the third $100, the third 100 leave that until Elio comes, because what are you going to do? You can't split it. It's not fair. It definitely belongs to one of them. So leave it until Elio comes. We can't decide the issue. We withdraw, right? We abstain from making a decision. But over here, where it's possible that they each telling the truth, but them, so you split a shua. Rabbi Yossi, if it goes like Rabbi Yossi, hashta omah hasan. Listen, the badai iked manalamar bikil malamar. Manach over there, Rabbi Yossi says the first 100 definitely belongs to each one. Still, Rabbi Yossi said, Rabbi Yossi, yeah, they'll leave it until Elio comes. The whole thing, like you say, even though it seems unfair, even the honest guy's not going to get his $100 back right away. Over here, it's possible that it belongs to one low-cost game. In other words, over there, where Rabbi Yossi says on the first 100, where the first 100, definitely Reuben has 100, definitely Shimon has 100. Still, you say leave the whole thing later on till there. Such a here, where it's for sure, it's possible it belongs to one of them. Certainly, you should say that you leave it until Elio comes. Zafilu Tamer Rabbi Yossi could even go like Rabbi Yossi on Mishnah. Why? Hasam Bada Ikaramai. Over there, there's for sure fraud. One guy says, one guy gave 200, one guy gave 100. The banker has a total of $300. Each guy says the $200 is mine. There's for sure a fraud. When there's for sure fraud, he says, when there's for sure fraud, we have to force the fraud to admit it. Nobody takes anything. We're adjourning here until you commit. Eventually, the fraud will also admit it because he wants to get some money back. Pardon? Okay, because one of them is for sure a lie, because we don't want to for sure lie. We don't want to. That's like the case of the worker with the makolet. We don't want to make a case where for sure one of them is swearing God's name in vain. So if each one swears that the 200 is theirs, one of them is for sure lying. So there, Rebbe says, the best solution is leave the whole thing there. So there with this for sure fraud, Rebbe says, then you leave it at the right? I feel there's for sure fraud. Who says there's a fraud over here? Maybe they both picked it up together. Or you could say there Rabbi Yossi gave a knas l'ramai. We gave a knas to Ramai too to force him to admit it. If each guy gets his $100 back, the fraud has no reason to admit. So that he should admit it. Might say to Islay the Lodi, but here, what's his loss? It was a found item anyway. Over there, each guy gave at least 100. One guy gave 200. The other guy gave 100. So over there, each guy has a loss. Even the Ramai has a loss. So by forcing the loss and saying nobody going to give anything back till he admits it, maybe he'll admit it because he doesn't want to lose anything. We force a loss on him, so he should admit it. But over here in the case of the talis, where nobody has any loss, why should he be moda? So there's no reason to enforce this idea and say leave the whole thing. It's okay, leave the whole thing. What do I care? Thomas Nafshin Plishtim. I won't get it. He won't get it. Who cares? Might say that he has no loss to admit it. There's nothing forcing to admit it. In the case of the 200 and 100, he's losing his $100, so that'll force him to admit it. But over here, where I see one guy pick up the talis and then I go grab the other half, so that I make a claim, I have no loss. Why should I admit it? So the Gemara says tenach mציעא. That's fine by a law. By when two guys claim they found it and picked it up first. But the second case we said Zerah Makulishli, we said it's a case of Mekah where we each paid for it. So there is a loss over there, meaning not a loss of money because he's going to get back half his money, but there's a loss because he wanted the item and he went and paid for it and he forced the other guy to take it. Over there, you can't say there's nothing forcing him. The best answer is like we said before, meaning the first answer. Rabbi Yossi over there gave the knas. Why? Because there's for sure a ramai, there's for sure a fraud over here who's lying and said that I gave $200 when I only gave 100. One of them is for sure lying. So we say nobody takes anything, so we can force the guy to admit it. But over here, there's no for sure liar, and that's the vein. So we say our mission go like bananas. Why? Because there's nobody for sure making a shvuas false over here. And by Sumchas also, even though Sumchas would normally say, so this is also a suffix. Well, think about it. In the case of the animal goring and killing the baby, when you say you split it, somebody's for sure losing half the value of the baby, either the owner of the par or owner of the gore. For sure, we know that the animal gored, right? The baby either died before or after, whether it was a split second before. The baby was either killed by the ox or not killed by the ox. There's no way to say halfway. And still you say you split it. So certainly over here you should split it, yes. But it's a tekanas chachamim, make a shvua, so people shouldn't go grab other people's items and say, it's mine. And Rabbi Yossi also could say, I'm going to go like Rabbi Yossi also, even though he says normally they're leave everything out Shev Hillel. That's when there's for sure a Ramai. We don't know if there's for sure. There could be a Ramai, and that's why the button made the Shvua, but we don't know for sure there's a Ramai, and therefore we allow these Shvuas to take place. Don't forget, if we know there's if we know for sure there's a Ramai, we wouldn't let him make a Shvua that half is mine or not less than half is mine, because one of them is for sure lying too. But it's possible they're not lying, and we want to avoid the possibility of a line when possible. All right, we'll stop here. Bein L'Rabban, we're up to Bein L'Rabban and Rav Yossi. The podcast on Shabbos will take you from this point on, and on Sunday we're going to start about the same spot on Daf Daled Amud Aleph. Look on Daf Daled Amud Aleph, about halfway down the page, almost halfway down the page. In the middle of the line, there's Ella de Kamer B'Tana Tuna. See Lo Parach Ella de Kamer B'Tana Tuna. About halfway down the page. That's where we'll pick it up on Sunday morning. Shabbat Shalom L'Kulam.